Joining us now for another interview here at the FIDE World Rapid Team Championship is Fabiano Caruana, none other. Fabi, how's it going? How are you finding Düsseldorf so far?
I'm enjoying it so far. It's good to play some casual chess after I had such a serious event with a lot of pressure, and now I don't have any pressure. I mean, it's a team event, so there's still some responsibility, but I'm not feeling the pressure that I was in my last event, so that's quite nice.
At the beginning, in the first round, you had a slip, so to say. You drew with I can't remember, it was 300 or 500 points lower rated player. And today in the first round, you also had a slip against Adli, which you managed kind of to turn around thanks to, with a lot of his help. Take us through that, what's happening there? Especially yesterday's game, not the game itself, but kind of what happened there.
Yeah, it was a bit silly, but I think I probably disrespected my opponent a bit because I was better at some point, much better, and probably winning. And I had much more time, and I thought the game was over, so I made one careless move. As soon as I made it, I realized I just blundered a pawn, and the game is immediately drawn. So I was up a pawn in endgame, and I should have concentrated more. And okay, he's quite a good player, so after that, I didn't get any more chances. But yeah, it can happen. You know, you have some kind of lapse of concentration. It happened to me. Against Adli, I think it was different. I didn't lose concentration, just it was a wild middle game and he outplayed me, although he was in serious danger himself, and then in time trouble he messed it up.
You mentioned that you underestimated your opponent. When it happens, and in your career it very rarely happens, that you meet someone who's 300 or 400 or 500 points lower rated, is it an automatic thing to underestimate them immediately? I mean, how not to? How do you kind of fight that in yourself? You see what I mean?
Yeah, I think with some experience you realize anyone can beat you. And also we're talking about good players, even if a player is, let's say, a bit or even a lot lower rated than me, he's still, or she's still probably a very good player. So it's not like they can't punish your mistakes. Yeah, this can always happen against anyone. And yeah, you just have to always stay very, very cautious. Very
alert. Another comeback which you made was in Dubai. You were knocked out of the semi-finals, but then, you know, it seemed, at least for us viewers on the side, it seemed that it was a devastating knockout for you. But then the first game for the match for round 3, you lost, and then you made a comeback, and you won 3rd place. How does Baku look to you now from a distance?
Yeah, overall it's positive, and I have to say that I came into it with probably the worst possible circumstances. I had a serious infection before the tournament. I was recovering from that before and during the start. So I didn't really expect much. Like the start of the training before the tournament went as badly as I could have possibly hoped for. Of course, you can't really avoid some health things sometimes. You know, you get an infection or some sort of virus or something. You can't avoid that all the time, right? So I didn't have much hopes, and early on I was very nervous. I remember after my first match, I played in the second match Mustafa Yilmaz, and I was super nervous during that match. I was maybe it was also some hangover from the last World Cup where in the 3rd round I got knocked out. So this was the same situation. 3rd round, I normally am a pretty big favorite, but you have that memory, like don't let this happen again. So I was very nervous, and it went to a tiebreak. That was actually the closest I was to getting eliminated before I actually got eliminated. So that was the most dangerous match. At some point in the second game, Yilmaz could have beaten me. He was winning, and that would have been the end of my tournament. So all things considered, looking back at what could have happened, and also against Lenier, I was in a losing position in the first game. Then, of course, my run was quite successful. Of course, there's some disappointment because I had good chances to beat Prague. I never thought it would be easy, and he defended super well, but I was in a better position 3 games in a row, and objectively winning one game very easily. So that was a disappointment, although as a whole, looking back on it with, let's say, with hindsight and with some calmness, you know, not being emotional about anything, overall it was very good.
You mentioned Prague. Some are already saying that that's the next world champion in waiting. Obviously, you will have something to say about that possibly. But do you think he is likely to be world champion, in your opinion?
I can't say that. I mean, he's very, very promising. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he plays a world championship match at some point, or if he becomes a world champion at one point. I wouldn't be surprised at all, but it's not like he's the only one. So there's He's super talented, but he's of a very strong generation. Like I think some generations are stronger than others. My generation is probably the strongest in history, with Magnus, of course, and also with several other players who played World Championship matches, like Nepo, Ding, who won the World Championship match, myself,
yourself, of course,
and Karyakin, and also players like Maxime and Wesley and Anish. So I think this generation is similar to ours, similar in strength. So we have obviously Prague and Gukesh and Noderbeck, but there are so many players who are potentially world champion, of course, including Faruja. I mean, he was
still
supposed to reach 2,800. I don't know if he was the youngest I can't remember if he or Magnus were the youngest in history to reach 2,800, but okay, obviously Faruja is a generational talent along with many of these other kids, so you can't say, like, we were saying, of course, Faruja will be world champion, and now people are saying, well, maybe Prague will be world champion or Gukesh, but...
Well, it could be that weight, the weight of the pressure, of the expectation of being kind of the favorite, so it's kind of difficult. So let me ask you on that note, are you feeling more comfortable when you were seen as the favorite or as the underdog? Or does it not matter?
In which situation, though?
In any situation, when you're playing an important match or an important tournament, and would you rather, is it easier for you when when you're seen as a favorite or as the underdog? Obviously, there are only a few players in the world one can say you're potentially an underdog, but
I don't think it matters for me personally. It doesn't matter what the public thinks, but my comfort level against the opponent does matter. So some players, I don't know if I would consider like a underdog or favorite situation, but some players I'm more comfortable against. I feel more comfortable playing against them, and I'm very confident, and some players less so. And
who are those players?
Oh, I'm not going to say that.
But at the try.
But also it depends on results, of course. Like, you remember some results very clearly, and some wins they weigh on you. They weigh on your opponent that you beat them, or they weigh on you that you lost to a person. So in terms of the outside public, I don't know if it matters so much, but yeah, it's like I've never been in a situation where I'm a heavy underdog or something. I mean, of course, in 2018 against Magnus, you could say I was underdog, right? But we were separated 3 points by rating. I don't think it was a very clear story, and I did consider it a very, very close match. So
I think everyone considers it to be the closest match we've had.
It would be close
of all the 5 Magnus played. So.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. He had against Sergey was also a very close one. Yeah, that was very close. He was even trailing near the end of the match. But yeah, I don't know. Every match has its own dynamic.
Just sorry to keep you, but just one question. The next generation coming, what is the difference between your generation and this new generation?
The difference is definitely technology. They have access to, had access to technology that we didn't have at their age. Engines are super strong. Of course, we have also grown up with computers. My generation, going up to, let's say, 1990, of course, we are part of the computer generation. But when I grew up, we didn't really use engines to analyze, and for most of my, let's say, teenage years, also engines were very weak. So at some point we started to use them to analyze, but they were pretty useless. They would say things like, the Sicilian is a bad opening, E4, C5, like, this is a mistake. Now, of course, the computer basically gives you the truth. And so the kids now are growing up with a whole different level of chess analysis. They can more quickly assimilate very useful information like that. On the other hand, maybe some skills that we have there are going to be more difficult for them to pick up because they could maybe over-rely on engines as well. So, like, I think we were the middle generation between the engineers and the pre-engineers. Like, we had a bit of both.
What the hell will happen after this generation of engineers, we'll see. Fabiano Caruana, always lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.